This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and back from his popular interview this past weekend, is none other than former ECW world champion, former WWE, WCW, NWA, UWF, XPW superstar, the reigning XPW world champion still, the franchise, Shane Douglas. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, you've first of all, snap my fingers, change of outfit, change of venue, but you're blowing the lid off the kayfabe here. I always say I'm deep in the bowels of the franchise bunker, but I think because of the daytime now, you can see that the bunker's really above ground. So,
A few people were commenting on your other video. They thought that the scarf was a fashion statement, but that is what you wear as a mask, right?
yeah, a fascist. Good Lord, where do they come up with this stuff? I mean, for the record, my dad fought the real fascists in World War II. I have a Nazi skull and crossbones ring that my dad killed the guy and took. I don't know where people come up with this stuff. I really don't. Like different hand signals, right? And they're saying like, well, I think what is this one supposed to mean something now? That to me, that's the triple threat, And so I guess that means something. And somebody forgot to let me in on the secret, but man, I mean, people are like really nutso over this kind of crap.
Yeah, definitely. And the big news today, as we were just talking about before we got on the air, is WWE has released six superstars. I guess the two biggest names were Lana and Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, I think, as well, and
Yeah.
a handful of others I wasn't that familiar with. But what are your thoughts on these releases?
Well, pretty telling stuff, right? I mean, just a week ago or less, there was a video on that they put out about how really poorly done ones, I might add. That I'm so excited. We're going back on the road. I mean, so they were going to get a root canal. They're so excited, but Braun Strowman was one of those, and I think several other people that were released today were also on that video. So what I'm hearing from the little birdies that are outside the franchise bunker is that this con guy and other people that they hired were high level people brought in to specifically clean the books up, make it far more attractive for a sale. And anybody that's followed the Triple Threat podcast knows that a year ago, and shortly after they bankrupted the XFL, or Vince bankrupted the XFL, and they made a round of releases then. I made the statement then that it sure looked to me like they were clearing the decks, getting ready to make a sale. Now, as I say that, I was talking to somebody earlier today, an attorney friend of mine, a big wrestling fan, and I told him, I said, look, I know this sounds crazy, and I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth, because anybody that knows Vince knows that he's such a control freak and such a narcissist. I cannot see him sans a box just walking off to the sunset. But the sources that I'm hearing are confirming that that's what's going on. And that we heard this comment last week about going full Hollywood after the zombie fiasco. It looks to me like they are going to do that, and whoever's going to buy it's going to be one of these companies, NBC, Universal, Paramount, somebody associated with the movie, so they can then use the WWE and all of its viewers, the few that they have left, to advertise their vehicles. And I'll still believe it whenever I see Vince walking off the stage and not coming back. My guess is much like Dana White did with UFC, he'll remain as whether figurehead or an active participant, but the McMahon family will still be involved. I think to the fans in general, if this is accurate, big asterisk, is that uh, the appearance of the show won't look much different. So those of us like you and me that want to see great wrestling, we're still shit out of luck. But for the fans that are tuning in to watch that stuff, I don't think they're going to see much difference in the product.
We always hear the fans hoping that they'll go back to the Attitude Era, but I don't see them getting any less corporate.
No, no. Look, as great as the Attitude Era was, as great as we remember ECW, I don't know of a TV executive today that would have the cojones to put that on the air. Uh, Once it was, they'd get all the accolades, right? Their bosses would think they were the greatest television executives of all time. The person I was speaking to earlier, the attorney friend of mine, is a big wrestling fan, has been for decades. Was the solicitor on Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies, and like he said, boy, something like that would come on the air now. You couldn't pry me away from it. And we've talked about beating the dead horse again. The 48 to 50 million fans that have walked away from sports entertainment over the last 20 years, each subsequent year of the ratings have been ever smaller than the previous year. That's maintained through now. Let's see if the rest of this year plays out. And based on recent ratings, weekly ratings, it looks like it's going to hold true for another year. Uh, but yeah, it's the product itself. I'm a wrestling fan. I'm highly critical of the product today, right? I think most people from my generation are, but I want to emphasize and boldface, italicize, highlight, and put song and dance people around it, right? That these kids today are astoundingly athletic, and I would love to see what they would create if they were under the same kind of tutelage that I and my generation was coming into the business. I don't think you could be today, but if they would get on track and somebody directed them of how to tell a story and how to build to those big spots that they're so incredible at doing, if it made some semblance of sense, that I think it would both lit off, and the old fat guy sitting here that loves professional wrestling would love to spend the next 50, 60, 80 years, maybe 100 if I got that many left, watching that kind of stuff. But I dig my teeth in, periodically, and I just can't latch on to this stuff.
And of course, the big news out of the AEW show on the weekend was the signing of Mark Henry. Do you think that's a wise signing? And once again, when they first started, we heard sports-based product, and they weren't going to take the past WWE guys. And it seems like they've now gone the opposite direction of both.
Yeah. Full disclosure up front, I love Mark Henry. Great guy. I mean, just, you got to search high and low to find a better guy than Mark. But you're right. This is what was fed up to us as the viewers, right? Was that this was going to get it back to something. I remember the phrase, the wrestling you remember. And then they gave us that great Cody and Dustin bull rope match, I think it was. And, just phenomenal stuff that whetted our appetite and lured us in. I don't think it's stepping in the right direction, and I'm so happy that Mark's got the contracts and all the guys that are going down there. It's great for them. But when you step back and you look, if you understand our industry like I think I do, and you see how many fans have walked away, those fans' money is just as green as those people that are still coming. There's just a shitload more of them. And like tens of millions of more of them. And so like how they're missing it this badly, especially for AEW, because they have a pretty recent incarnation and a person named Dixie Carter that they can look to and see, does that work? Does that succeed taking that route? And I would think that if you dug into those books, you'd find out the answer is no. I want to see all of the guys gainfully employed. And so I've never said it on your show, I don't think, but I'll say it here. Whenever I say the boys or the guys, I mean the men and women in the dressing room, the people that have earned their way into that dressing room. But I want to see all of the wrestlers gainfully employed. It used to be the wrestling industry in America employed around 10,000 people. Now we're down to 2, maybe 300. But I want to see another 10,000 employed. I want every kid out there that wants to strap on boots and tights to have the same opportunities that this New Brighton moron from Pennsylvania had the opportunity to go in and give it a try, and to be able to have the same kind of successes and greater successes than I had in the industry. Right now, I fear that that's not the case, that we're heading in a direction that's not good for the business. It's not good for the viewers. It's not good for the boys. The only thing it's good for is the people that are lining their pockets with it, the Vince McMahons.
I'm only going to ask one fan question because this is a short interview, and Ken wants to know, of course, Francine still manages you from time to time on the independent circuit, but who would your manager be if you could choose a manager today to manage you?
Well, that's a crazy question. Yeah, Francine and I have such great chemistry, and we're such great friends that I can't imagine anybody else fulfilling that role full time like that. If I were going back to being a kid again and could pick any era of any wrestling, I would love, who wouldn't, and coming into the wrestling business when I did, who wouldn't have loved to have had. Uh, say, a Harley Race, later in his career he became, but also a Freddie Blassie, a Grand Wizard. Those are the ones that take me back to being that kid in front of the, eating a bowl of popcorn and watching professional wrestling. But Francine and I have done some pretty incredible stuff in wrestling, and she was there was a learning curve, right? Like she had. There was a period where she was pretty brand new to the wrestling business, and suddenly thrown in, with a world heavyweight champion. I can't imagine having been thrown in that position, at the same stage she was. But after, I would say, like 4, 5, 6 months, you started seeing Franny like take things into her own hands and trying things, and some of them were pretty amazing. And when you get to that point, when you're performing in front of a live audience, and your coworker is doing her own thing and coming up with her own stuff, not taking spotlight, but knowing where to step in and to draw attention, and then doing some of the incredible stuff that she did as my manager and valet. So I can't imagine anybody else but Francine standing there.
Well, thanks for catching up with us again. I'm sure we're going to have you back for a longer one because you're one of our most popular subjects. Is there anything you'd like to plug before you go? I know you're in a bit of a rush today.
Yeah, getting ready to make dinner for my son. Just want to direct everybody to foreverfan.club. It's a site that we've been working on. Have some great ideas that are coming up for it, and a lot of big plans for it. Really, it's in a nutshell. It's one-stop shopping for all things ECW, but also some professional baseball players. Memorabilia. Anything you want to do interacting with ECW talent. I think there's a last count like 30 or 35 of us that are signed up there. It's technically launched, but there's going to be a big real launch coming up soon. So remember, foreverfan.club, not .org or .com, foreverfan.club. And go there, check it out, and please give us feedback and spread the word as to what's going on there, because a lot of big things, including original content, going to be coming there very soon.
Thank you for watching the